This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
So let's get underway here. Thank you everyone for attending this important meeting about the sewer infrastructure in New City. Let's start. There are several city staff on the call, so let's start just by introducing ourselves. I'm Johanna Stacy. I'm the senior planner in the planning department and also the CDBG program manager. Allison.
Hi everyone, Allison Manuel. I'm the planning director. I'll turn it over to Greg.
Hi everyone, I am Greg Nuttleman, the Director of Public Works for the city.
Okay.
Mayor LaChapelle of Easthampton, handing it over to the city councilor.
She might be muted.
Hi, everybody. Felicia Jadzak here, City Councilor for Precinct 2.
Thank you. Okay. Members of the public currently are muted. And when we get to the Q&A portion of the meeting, we ask that you raise your hand and let us know that you'd like to speak, and then we'll unmute you. So I'd like to start off, well, before we get to that, as folks of New City might know, there's been ongoing work since 2020 to design infrastructure upgrades in New City. We're here today specifically to talk about the sewer lines in the neighborhood, several of which run through private property. And as such, the city currently does not have legal access in place to access and maintain these sewers for residents. We wanted to hold this meeting in order to provide a way for city staff and residents to have a conversation about the proposed sewer work in New City and the potential it has to affect private property owners in the neighborhood. We'd like to start off by making a brief presentation to provide you with some background information, and then we'll sort of open the floor after that for questions and comments and have more of a discussion. So we ask that you hold on to your questions till the end, and there'll be ample time for questions. So let me start up the, okay. Is that screen for the slideshow visible to folks?
Yeah, I can see it.
You can. Okay, great. That's great. Okay. So I'd like to start off by providing a little bit of background information on New City itself. New City neighborhood was largely built by the West Boylston Mills, who developed the neighborhood basically for worker housing for the mills in the early 1900s. Some of the oldest streets in the neighborhood include Oakdale Place, Lincoln Street, Emerald Place, and Harrison Ave. By and large, the mills built the underground utilities along with the streets and sidewalks in the neighborhood. And the whole parcel of land was basically owned by the mills. When the mills started closing in the 30s and 40s, the land started becoming transferred over to private property owners. And the city has maintained the utilities and the streets for decades. So most of the utilities in New City, such as the water lines and the drainage lines, are actually located in the roadway. However, on several of these older streets, the sewers run through the backyards of properties and connect to the rear of the house. Many of the sewers are clay pipe. They're about 100 years old, and they're old and due for rehabilitation. The picture on the right here is actually a video shot of inside of the sewer. And you can see some roots that have sort of grown in through the cracks in the pipe. So over time, these can build up and cause issues. So part of this project involves cleaning things out like this to avoid issues down the road. The other part of the sewer project that's being proposed is that we would then go in and rather than replace the pipes, we would be lining the pipes using a process called cured in place piping. So basically it creates a very strong layer within the pipe and helps the pipes last much longer. Just a little bit of information about cured in place pipe. The process is that there's cameras that go into the pipe. They identify any roots or blockages that are there. The machine actually goes in to clear out those roots or whatever else might be sediment that's in the pipe. And then they actually go in, put a liner in the pipe, and then sort of inflate it and, well, basically meld it to the pipe so it's cured to the pipe. Cured in place pipe has several benefits. There's very minimal, basically no ground disturbance needed. It's used pretty widely at this point in time across the country, and it's a pretty cost-effective way to extend the life of the existing sewer pipes. Question that might come up is, why is the city opting to use this method to rehabilitate the sewer pipes as opposed to moving the pipes into the roadway with the other utilities? And there's several compelling reasons for this decision. The first is that cured in place piping is a less intrusive method. So there's less work involved in digging up old pipes, installing new pipes, figuring out all the grades. Secondly, moving pipes to the roadway is expensive, both for the city and for homeowners. The city would have the cost of installing new pipe in the roadway, but homeowners would also have the cost of installing new pipe on the private property. So connecting between their house and the roadway would be the homeowner's responsibility. And we don't want to add that burden to homeowners. The third reason is that just from a design standpoint, currently the sewer connections are at the back of the house. So you'd need to either bring the pipe all the way around, kind of curve it around to the street, which adds bends, which can be problematic for other reasons. Or again, homeowners would need to pay to create a connection at the front of their house for a more direct link to the roadway. Either way, it's a cost for homeowners that we're trying to avoid. So looking at the location of where these sewer lines are in the neighborhood, there's basically 5 locations throughout the neighborhood that have sewers that are located on private property. One is between Emerald Place and Harrison Ave, over here on the left of the map. The second is between Lincoln and Harrison Ave. Third is between Oakdale and Ferry Street. The fourth is between Oakdale and the houses on Dartmouth Street. And then there's a very short line that runs between Dartmouth Street and Federal Street. So again, I want to emphasize that with sewers located, let me back up here. With sewers located on private property, the city doesn't currently have legal access to be able to get to these sewers really without coordinating with the homeowner and asking and making sure it's okay for the city to be on their property to fix to fix an issue that might occur. So at this point, the city would like to secure legal access so that we can maintain the sewers, fix them as needed, and make sure that they're functioning for the neighborhood for years to come. So we do want to let property owners know that in the next couple of weeks, we'll be starting this process of securing legal access. So the city will be sending out letters from the city attorney that request donations of easements related to the sewer lines. So we do want to let folks know to expect these letters. And there'll be further instructions and communication within the letters that are more detailed than what we're providing today. But the important thing is that we want to let people know that they're on their way. The sewer work itself that is part of this project probably won't happen for a couple of years. But we are trying to work on the legal aspect of it now. So with that said, I would like to open the floor to questions. So it looks like Jill.
So Jill, you'll just have to unmute yourself, but you should be able to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, I'm Jill Corbett. I own the property at the corner of New City. It's 2-4 Emerald Place, and I just found out during this presentation that it used to be called Brook Street. That's really interesting. But my question is regarding the pipeline that goes between Oakdale Place and Ferry Street. That area where that pipeline is, it's a road. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a designation, but if you look at a map, there's a paved road between the houses that basically that sewer line runs under. Like if you follow that sewer line, that's a road all the way out to Parsons Street and connecting up with Oakdale Place. Is there a plan to make that an official road as part of the project?
That isn't part of the scope of the current project. But I'm going to refer to Greg, our DPW director, about whether there's been conversation about changing the status of that road.
Hi, Jill. So we've discussed that a little bit internally, and it certainly will be an awkward project for us to redo the entire neighborhood and leave that in its current state. So whether or not that will ultimately be accepted as a city street is not something I can really answer at this point in time. But we certainly would like to get it more up to the standards of a city street. But it's kind of there will be some legal hurdles to clear in getting that turned into a public right of way, if you understand what I'm getting at.
That makes sense. That makes sense. As of right now, when I'm looking at it, does that mean that road belongs to the properties, either mine or the people across the street? Is that property owned by those houses, or where? When I purchased my house, the limits of the property line went up to what that road is. So I'm wondering, is it a city road? Is it privately owned by us and the folks that live on the other side?
I think unofficially, what I'd refer to it as for the context of this conversation is a private way or a right of way for the property owners through there.
Okay. All right.
So I just want to chime in and add that roads are a very funny legal thing in Massachusetts, and how they're established, and just I think in particular because New England has, you know, was settled so long ago, and there's roads that have existed for who knows how long, and just a lot of quirky situations. But yeah, for your purposes and your neighbors' purposes, you all have rights to travel over it. It's just, but it is technically private property that is owned by the abutting properties rather than being formally within the city's right of way. So that, to Greg's point, would be a different legal process that would have to be undertaken, and people would have to agree to give up part of their property, which, you know, for the most part, it's all already being used for public purposes, but it does require a process.
Gotcha. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. It really does. Thank you. I was really surprised when I got the map and saw that road wasn't even listed on the map.
We have a couple in town that have that
Yeah.
kind of strange designation.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you, folks, for indulging my questions. I appreciate it.
No, we really appreciate you taking the time to attend. And you know, you probably heard at the beginning, we are recording this with the hopes that maybe some additional property owners in the neighborhood will be able to watch. We do want to encourage everybody that is a property owner with sewer on the private property to reach out if they have questions. We don't want anybody to be taken by surprise when the letters go out. And we're more than happy to go over any question that anyone has. And, you know, if we don't have the answer now, we can try and get it for you. So it doesn't look like there's anyone else on the call that had questions. Johanna and Greg, I don't know if there was anything in particular that you wanted to touch on that came up during the in-person meeting that people who watch this later might want to know about. I feel like we covered probably most of it.
Yeah, we did. I mean, one thing I do want to mention for anyone that does watch this later is it's not our intention to disturb or, you know, have to take any action on anyone's property that's not 100% necessary just to operate the municipal sewer system. That's all we want to be all we're trying to be able to do through this process, and having these easements for them to be there 50 or 100 years from now is just be able to do our jobs. So we certainly don't want to harm anyone or cause any, I don't know, disruption that's not just needed to operate the municipal sewer system. So anyone has questions later on, they're more than welcome to just shoot me an email or give a call to the DPW. I'll be happy to see what I can do to help, you know, ease any concerns.
Mayor, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, Johanna mentioned it in the presentation, but I would also just want to emphasize that we're talking about paperwork going out to folks from lawyers talking about easements, but the project timeline, we're not talking shovels in the ground or cameraing pipes until 2027. So there's a gap in time between these information sessions, and when folks might actually see work crews in their neighborhood to do this actual project. So just to kind of get that again onto the public record.
Thank you, Mayor. Jill?
Yeah, sorry, just one more question. Since I wasn't able to attend the in-person meetings, I was just curious what the you know, what the feedback was from my neighbors who were able to attend. If there was any concern or folks are excited. I can go back and watch those meetings as well, but you know, a summary would be helpful.
Yeah, so the in-person meeting happened this afternoon. And the same information was presented at the in-person meeting. And to be honest, there were only 2 people in attendance. I think there was concern about how much direct impact would have on their individual property. So it was more focused on the construction impacts. And there's really only a handful of parcels where there would be ground disturbance on the parcel related to either pipe repairs or manhole repairs. So yeah, I don't know if Allison or Greg, if there's any other.
Well, I think one of the things that came up was just logistically how this is done. Is it, it's accessed from the manholes at the surface. So there is very minimal digging that will be done. In some properties, there won't be work crews on them at all. Probably the majority of properties will never have a work crew on them as part of this project. And Greg, you can probably speak to it more, but it would only require the sewers to be offline for the portion of a day, right? Like 8 hours, I think you said, Greg, maybe, where you couldn't run water or flush the toilet.
Yeah, depending on the main type and the main size and air temperature, things like that. While they're doing the work, they'll ask for residents not to use their sewer, run any water or anything for 6 to 8 hours. But the whole neighborhood will be dug up. We'll get new streets, new sidewalks. It'll be a beautiful project when we're done. But the disturbance on the private property will be fairly limited to repairs that we have to make to sections of pipe that are in too poor condition to be lined. The pipe has to be, I don't know, I'd say 70% solid, or give it a grade of a C+, right, to be able to line it. So. Yep,
and Greg, you said earlier that the longevity that this adds to the pipe's life is 50 to 100 years. Is that right?
Oh yeah. It's like brand new pipe that'll be there probably long after all of us.
Yeah, so it's a great project. The city will probably have to go out for a grant to fund it, and it might be done in 2 cycles, this particular part of the project. And as part of that grant process, we will have to demonstrate that we have the right and access to the pipe that's on private property, which is why we really want to get all of this secured now. So when we go out for that grant funding, everything is where it needs to be, and it can be a quicker and smoother process. And just do want to reiterate that we're not, there are cases where people have sheds or garages near the area where the easement will be, and that's fine. The only reason it would ever become a problem is if we have to access the pipe that is directly underneath or next to one of those structures, and that's not common and not something we expect. But the easement would make it so that we're able to do that. And it's important to point out that these sewers that are running behind folks' homes or alongside their homes are not just servicing them, it's servicing their neighbors as well. So when there's a problem on one property, it affects all the properties that are on that line. So everybody coming together to establish this access it benefits the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, Jill.
Hi, thank you again. Hoping this is my last interaction. This is a little beyond the scope of this meeting, but I just wanted to ask a few quick questions. One, my neighbors and I that live on Ferry Street and Emerald Place, right now we don't have curb cuts. We don't have access to our properties from those actual streets. So the idea of making that road behind our houses at Eastway an actual road would be, I would be supportive of that from my own standpoint. I'd like to go on the record of saying it is hard. I don't even order delivery anymore because no one can get to my house. And then 2, I would just like to ask if I could get some information on who I would talk to about getting the background on this neighborhood. I had no idea Emerald Place used to be called Brook Street, and I have no idea where this road between our houses actually was put in and what what was planned around it. Who would I reach out to for that?
Well, Johanna, you have a lot of information just as part of this project. We've done some research that we could share.
Yeah, we definitely have some general information on the neighborhood, especially information that's been used in grant applications and things like that. Happy to share those, to share that with you. So you can just, my contact information is on the slide here. Like to send me an email, I'm happy to.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I can definitely do that. Yeah, it was on the notification as well. I appreciate that.
Okay.
So yeah, yes,
Certainly.
thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
very
we've
much.
got some cool older maps. Johanna, you found a neat picture. I don't know if you left it off of the presentation or not. That I thought was pretty cool. I would imagine the Historical Commission probably has some good info too. If there were particular questions, we can always forward them over to them too.
That would be great, because I think the folks in my neighborhood that have bought these houses have bought them from folks who've been living there for 50 years.
Mhm.
And so a lot of that knowledge just didn't really come forward. So I'd love to know a little bit more. I mean, I purchased it back in 2005, but still, like, it's been 20 years and I don't know that much about my neighborhood.
Yeah, there's some interesting history related to the mills for this neighborhood.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll reach out to you, Joanna. I appreciate it.
Okay, certainly. Okay. So it looks like we can probably wrap up unless there are any other additional comments. Not seeing any. So I again thank you everyone for attending. Appreciate it. And hopefully if you have neighbors that would like to get more information, please and let them know to contact me, the planning department, and we can provide them with the information. And we'll be posting this presentation online shortly on the project webpage. So thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.